So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this blur effect using Adobe Photoshop. You can see that this gives a really cool, interesting effect, and it's very unique. So when you're selecting an image for this, what you want to be looking for is an image that has got a lot going on at the top. The reason for that is because if we just have a small section here, it kind of looks a little bit odd. So you need the height in order for this to work. So I'm going to just delete them and walk you through the process. So the first thing you want to do is we want to duplicate the background layer. So we're going to do that twice. So press Control Command J, and working on the top layer here, first thing we want to do is come to Filter, come to Blur, and then we want to go to Motion Blur. And what we want to be doing is making sure that the angle is set to -90 degrees. That just gives you the nice lines there that are running up and down. And when you do this to start with, it will probably be distance around 15 pixels, 10 pixels. It'd be quite low. There isn't any magic number to this, but in order for this to work, you want to try and push this a little bit further than what you feel is comfortable. So I think for this image around 375 pixels, that looks pretty interesting. So I'm going to say OK to that. Then we're going to come back up to Filter, go to Blur, and then this time we're going to go to Gaussian Blur. And what this is going to do, if I take this away, it's just going to smooth out some of the edges there. So it just polishes it off a little bit. I would say the maximum you'd need to go to is 20 pixels. But for this particular image, I'm going to go to 5 pixels. So I'm going to say OK to that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a layer mask. So just come down to the bottom here and click on the little layer mask option there. That gives you a white layer mask. So we want to invert that. So press Control or Command I, and that will invert that selection there. Next thing, we want to come over to the left here and we want to select the gradient tool. Now if you come up to the top here, you can see you've got gradient and you've got classic gradient. What we're looking for is in the gradient, or the classic gradient, is the second one in there. Can you see? So that one's going to give you basically a foreground to transparent. Now you'll notice that because my foreground color is set to black, so is that gradient. So we want to click on the two little arrows there and make sure that it's white. So now we've done that, we want to just click at the top and just drag. And what this is going to do is bring that effect in. And you can see there it's just starting to bring that in. So you can add this more than once. You can also come to this little section here and that will increase and decrease the gradient. So I think maybe, yeah, going a little bit lower. So somewhere around there looks pretty good. Okay, so if we just click away from there, you can see that we've got the start of our effect. So let's click back onto our layer mask there, and this time I'm going to come over to a brush. And still on white, I'm going to come up to the top, make sure the hardness is set to 0, and I'm going to bring the opacity down to around 30%. And what we're going to do is just paint in this effect down the bottom here. So the reason why I've put the opacity down is just because I don't want the effect to be as strong in the foreground here. But it gives you an opportunity just to build up that effect if you want. So just for this tutorial, I'm going to increase this, otherwise we'll be here for a while. And you'll get a much better effect if you just take your time and build up that effect rather than just doing what I'm doing here. So I'm going to completely blur that section out here. So that's looking pretty good. We've got the blur at the top there, and we've left a sort of area here for the guy in the middle. So I'm just blurring out some of the background there. There we go. Okay, so the next thing to do is to change the color to black, and what this will do is bring back the normal picture, so to speak. And again, I'm going to drop the opacity down quite a bit, and what I want to do is just bring back some of the tree in this foreground up here, sorry, in the background up here, just because I want to give a little bit of depth to the shot. The other thing that you can do is bringing this right down, so I'm at 9%, is just go around areas that look a little bit odd, or just don't fit in with the picture, and just bring back some detail. You can see there's some detail here that I want to bring back. So just small circles will give you the best effect when you're blending. So we can just blend this area in a little bit, and just take your time with this part. So this is the finesse part, and you just need to take your time. You'll get a much better result. So let me just zoom in a little bit. So I just want to bring some detail back up here. There we go. So let's slip back to the white and maybe just start blurring some of this area here. Just get that effect going a little bit more. There you go. And you can see what that's going to do. It's just going to blend it in a little bit better. So that's looking pretty good. And this is the trick to this edit, is just taking your time. So again, I've gone back over to the black there. I'm just going over some of the detail on these path areas down here. Okay, so take your time with that. Right, so once you've done that and you're happy, the next thing that we can do is we can group these together. So let's hold the Shift key down, click on the next layer there underneath, press Control Command G, and that will group everything together. Then let's add a blank layer. So come down to the bottom here and just add a blank layer. And again, still using the brush tool, set on white, and again the hardness is set to 0. I'm going to push my opacity up to around 15%. And what I'm going to do is just make the brush a little bit bigger, and I'm going to click. And what this is going to do is just form some light areas. So where that light is coming through the trees naturally, I'm just going to emphasize them a little bit more. And the bigger the brush, the softer that is going to be. So then come to the blend mode and this selects soft light, and then come to the opacity and just start dropping that down, because we obviously don't want big circles. We want this to look like light that's coming through, not big splodges. So another way to kind of get around that is just to click and drag rather than actually click singularly, and you won't get so much circles then. And if you make a mistake, as always, you can just go to the black and just go over any areas that you want to get rid of. So for instance, if I want to get rid of that light that's just coming through onto the foreground there, maybe a little bit up here. That's it. So you can see that's what that is doing. It's giving you a nice nice color there, just bringing that light through. Okay, so next let's come down to the bottom here and let's make a curves adjustment. And in this particular shot, I'm going to come up to the greens, and you can see if we click in the middle, that's going to basically affect everything. So I want to actually add some green into this. So I'm just going to push that up a little bit. I'm going to come down to the blues, and you can go either way with this. You can make it cooler, but I actually think the green looks really nice. So I'm going to bring the blues down a little bit, and then into the reds channel, we can just pull them greens in a little bit more there. Okay, next let's come down to the bottom again, and let's go to a hue and saturation. And with this, we can bring down the saturation a little bit, just so it's not as bright and vibrant. Let's bring up the lightness though, not that much, to just about 1. And then if we come to these colors here, we can now really start finessing and getting these colors exactly where we want them to be. And you'll get some really nice tones going on. The other thing that you can do as well, so let's come back to the greens, is we can actually change the hue of these greens so they're not as garish, so to speak. We can do that, push the saturation up, and you can see what that is doing, and the lightness won't be as dramatic as what it is when you're set to all. So let's click on the little cross there, and then finally it's come down to the bottom, and then just make a quick levels adjustment. So we can bring this black in a little bit, bring the whites up, and then just play with these midtones. There we go. There. So that is the finished result. So if you look at that, we've got some really nice effects going on there, but you can see it looks more complicated than what it actually is when you're following this. So let's click on the little camera, and you can see that's the before and that's the after. That's the one that I brought in from the very beginning. So if I just group all these together and drag them into there, you can see that's the original, and that's what we've just done. So it's a really, really nice dreamy effect and can give you something a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. So once you're ready to save this, you can come up to the top here, click on save as a copy, and what I would recommend you do is save it as a TIFF file and make sure the layers are selected there, and then save it wherever you need to, because what that means is that when you save it and you open it up, next time you open it up, you're going to have all of these layers selected. The other thing that you can do as well, which I probably should have done at the beginning, is you can convert these to smart objects when you're adding the Gaussian blur and motion blur. Just when you create this layer, just right click and convert it to a smart object. It just means then you'll have the option to go back and change the blurriness if you want to. So I hope you enjoyed that. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.